1948, and even more so since 1967. And this is just the latest. This is just because the US now is openly backing what the Israelis call sovereignty over Palestinian land. So we're here today to show that we support the Palestinians in their resistance to annexation, and support them in their struggle for freedom and justice and equality and the right to return. So I want to introduce first Mary Durkan from the SDLP. You'll say a few words, and then Eamonn McCann from People Before Profit. Thank you.
Right. Just want to thank Catherine and Martin and Derry IPSC generally for being so good at continually raising awareness all the time. As you say, Catherine, this hasn't come out of nowhere, but this latest annexation is, well, it represents another NAPCA, another catastrophe, and as a world we're coming out of the greatest global health crisis yet. So it's so important that we stand up, that we hold governments to account everywhere, that we call for action, not just commentary. People need to step up and not let the Israeli authorities away with this. I mean, the green light that has been given for this further land grab is just going to trample further on the already flagrantly breached most basic of human rights of the Palestinian people. So yeah, I'm going to hand over defer to the much more eloquent Eamonn now, but just Tashi Tawata, like Gomemwich Alagan Shaw, Gulan Air Gulan, Shasamwich and Shaw and Nuris, Shasamwich Nila Palestini, Shasamwich Dohohrim Nafenya, so Guramila Mayogov.
Thank you, Mary.
Well, this is, of course, by no means the first time we've gathered at Free Derry Wall to express solidarity with the Palestinian people. You do get the sinking feeling that this won't be the last time either that we will have a duty to come here, because the persecution and the displacement of the Palestinian people is not only one of the greatest crimes against any national group in any of our lifetimes. What's distinctive about the persecution and the attempted obliteration of the Palestinian people is that it is happening in full view of the world. This isn't an atrocity which comes to light and was reported weeks afterwards, or which is rumoured to be happening, or which anybody is denying that it happened. This is something which is unfolding before our eyes and before the eyes of everybody on earth who wants to look. The Palestinian people, their lives and their livelihoods and their associations, their sense of national identity is being destroyed, so that without anybody of any great power speaking up against it. The lie of anti-Semitism is being hurled at anyone who even stands up tentatively and expresses sympathy, much less support for armed struggle or anything else. Anybody who expresses sympathy and fellow feeling with the Palestinian people is now denounced as anti-Semitic. We've seen in the last couple of days the actor Maxine Peake been sort of deluged with dirt and filth, a fighter against a racism all her life because she spoke up for the Palestinian people. We have seen the accusation of anti-Semitism used against Bernie Sanders in America. We saw it used ruthlessly over and over again against Jeremy Corbyn. We see it used against Diane Abbott. We see it used against anybody who raises a voice. And that is intimidation. It is moral and political intimidation which actually works, because people think twice and three times before putting their head over the parapet and actually expressing something as simple as saying that the Palestinian people are entitled to their national home and that nobody, including the Israeli Defence Forces, has any right to come in and annex them. That is construed as a statement against Jewish people. In point of fact, it is not only is that not an expression of the will and the history and the rights of the Jewish people, one of the groups in this world who has fought most strongly against racism in all its forms has been the Jewish people. If you look at the list of white people who joined the African National Congress and fought for freedom in South Africa, Jewish people are hugely disproportionately represented among the ranks of those who fought for equality coming from a white background. Like Ronnie Kasrils, I saw just a couple of days ago, was a minister of Mandela's government. Ronnie Kasrils, and was a member of the ANC. and who fought with the ANC. Joe Slovo, who at one point was the chief of staff of the ANC. Joe Slovo comes from a proud, long Jewish heritage in South Africa. No white group contributed so much to the fight against apartheid per head of population as the Jewish people in South Africa. So to say now that it is anti-Semitic to stand up for the Palestinian people is a lie about the history of the Jewish people, as well as a lie about the Middle East and against the Palestinian people. When we fight against racism, we must have it clear in our heads so that we fight against all forms of racism. And it's right, in view of the fact, the temptation, if you like, there's a temptation to associate, sort of what has been done to the Palestinian people by the Israeli Defense Forces, and some people who should know an awful lot better will say they've been persecuted by the Jews. No, they are not being persecuted by the Jews. They're being persecuted by the forces of imperialism, Jewish, Christian, and everything else. Donald Trump doesn't care two balls of blue about the Jewish people or about the Holocaust, but they're willing to weigh in and accuse everybody else of anti-Semitism. That is because they're defending their power. They are defending imperialism in the Middle East. That's what's happening, and that's what makes it important for us here in Ireland to stand up and associate ourselves with the Palestinian people and with those who defend them. It may seem like a little thing, and in some ways it is a very little thing, for us to stand at Free Derry Corner and say that we support the Palestinian people. But it's for a start, the persecution of Palestine is the single greatest atrocity going on in the world at the moment. There have been many, many atrocities, including the Holocaust. Indefensible. But right this moment, the persecution of the Palestinian people, the imminent annexation of most of what remains of their land. So that is the crime. Remember a couple of years ago, 5, 6 years ago, whenever it was, 10 years ago, whatever it is, when there's annexation of Crimea by Russia. That's a complicated case. Actually, the Russians had a point, but the point is about it, when that happened, the annexation of Crimea, it was the biggest story in the world. It had the United Nations and everywhere else, Britain, the European Union, and all the major powers, the European Union, including the Republic of Ireland, were standing out in favour, they said, of the Crimean people. Where are they now? Where are they now? Where are the voices raised against the theft of land and the theft of some people's identity? And Ireland has a responsibility in this too, We are part of the European Union. We can't say, oh, look what the European big powers are doing to the Middle East. So we are part of that. Ireland is part of that. North and South, historically, has been part of that oppression. So that puts a duty on us to stand up for the Palestinian people now. And let me just end with a quote from an Irish leader, which has quoted about Palestine at this very spot, I think, on a number of occasions. It's a quote from Erskine Childers, not the president, but a man who was the uncle of the President Erskine Childers of the 1970s and 1980s. Childers was a journalist. He worked for the BBC. He went to the Middle East in 1949, 2 years after the Narca. And when he came back, he wrote in the Radio Times of all places, but he wrote about his journey to the Middle East. And he said about the Palestinian people, he said, if you go among them today, they will take you to a hill over Judea and punch through the barbed wire and say to you, look, that house over there, beside those trees, that is my home. And it still is their home. And there is a shame in the face of the world that the Palestinian people are still as far from home as ever. And that should give us an extra determination and an extra dynamic to keep on standing up for the Palestinian people and to ensure that when it's needed in any international days of solidarity, we, in whatever numbers we can muster, we will be here too. We will have it out with Israel, we will have it out with imperialism which stands behind Israel, and then eventually we will bring, or not we won't bring, the Palestinian people will bring freedom to themselves with the support of people like us all over the world. So thanks very much for coming. Catherine, if you want to finish up, as if it works. But thanks very much for listening. As I say, I have a dreadful feeling that sometime in the future we'll have to be back here again. But we'll do it again, and again, and again, because the Israelis do it again, and again, and again to the Palestinian people. Thanks for coming. Solidarity.
thank you everybody for coming. Thank you for your support. And hopefully the next time we win a Cllr, there'll be more people here when it's safer for people to actually get together. I know Niall he's doing an article for IMEMC with the International Middle East Media News. And that will be up online, so I'll share it and you can all share it as well. And every single one of these protests means so much to them. Samadun, who is the Palestinian Prisoners Network, advertised this as well, our protest here. So all this here, all these small acts, all build up to be one. You know, it's something that they themselves, that they can see that they haven't been forgotten. So thanks everybody. Thank you. Thanks Eamonn. Thanks Mary.
Thanks Eamonn.